Everyone just jumped in there. We have a lot of stuff to discuss today. There was a lot of news that dropped recently, and it is going to be absolutely crazy what's probably going to be happening in the next couple of weeks, assuming that if San Diego Comic-Con wants to talk about it or whatever.
Hmm.
Looks like we're going to be having a kind of a return to Beast Wars, to the main line, and not just in a small, like, oh, we're going to give you this one figure here, this one masterpiece there. Also, we have JawzD with us this time.
What's up, people? What's up?
Um, he was supposed to be on yesterday. What was going to happen was he was supposed to be on yesterday, and then I announced that I was going to be going live, and then Aaron Archer's like, "Hey, you going live tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you want to like do something?" And I was like, "Okay." So
And I, just stepped aside to have a really cool. Like you guys basically did what you normally do in your panels, right?
well,
Where it's
that's
basically
that's
um.
that's the
Go
way
on,
that
go
I
on.
saw it. I was just like, you know what? Like, this is the TFcon weekend. We'll do like a Saturday panel thing, and then tomorrow I'll do something with you. And it kind of worked
Yeah.
out, especially because so many people wanted to talk modern stuff, and that's kind of not in Aaron's wheelhouse as opposed to us.
Hmm.
So, I mean, just a lot of crazy stuff. Man, I'm gonna be getting so many messages. This, if you're gonna be hearing beeping in the background, I've turned off all my notifications on my phones and everything,
Mm.
but you still can't like avoid all of it when the computer's right here, and oh man, it's gonna be crazy. We already have a question right away. If you were the head honcho at Hasbro, what idea strategies would you implicate to make Transformers brand become popular as Marvel or Star Wars? Do you want to tackle that one first?
Oh,
That's
jeez,
a tough. I
that's a
know,
tough one.
I know that the funny thing is even Aaron said it. It's something I wish Aaron was here for because
Mm.
when
That's true.
when Marvel like was just like a couple of weeks after the Avengers movie came out, like all the guys at Hasbro were like, because they do the Marvel toys, but they were
Yeah.
like, we have to do this for our brands. Like, look what they're doing here, where everything they do people go to see because they feel it's part of this connected world. And it was like they were like, wow, like we didn't think Thor was going to do good, we didn't think Captain America was going to do good, but everyone went to see those because they didn't want to feel like they were missing out. And then what
Yeah.
really clicked with them was Guardians of the Galaxy, because that
Yeah.
that was the one that they thought like, oh, no one's going to go see that one, that's going to be the bomb, there's going to be the one that's going to reel Marvel back and make Marvel go, okay, maybe we're making too many movies. And
Hmm.
well, we know what happened with that. They've had those discussions many times, Hasbro, many
Yeah.
times, where they were just like, we need to figure out how to do the same thing. What would I do in all honesty? I think personally, when you're talking just the Transformers brand, the health that it's in right now is all about evolution. Transformers has survived because it always had to change with the times, and they'll always put out new product that kind of matches that. What's happening with Kingdom, going towards Beast Wars, 90s kids, all that kind of stuff, totally smart move. And like I did my tweet about it also, and it got like retweeted like 100 times and stuff. And you'll see there's like 50% of the people are like, no, I want more G1. And then there's like the other 50% they're like, thank God, for it's Beast Wars. I'm tired of the G1. So you're always going to have that division in the middle. But I feel that for the health of the brand, you got to move forward. You got to
Yeah.
constantly change. And I mean, as it partakes to like me personally, I think that like as much as this might be sacrilege to people, I find the comic book aspect of the brand isn't too important in the bigger scheme. So you could do something that's really fan oriented with the comic brand. You don't have to worry
Yeah, you
about.
you you don't have to worry about budget. You don't have to worry. Like when it's a comic, you could really do whatever you want and go crazy with it. And then if you're lucky, a little bit down the line, you could mine that for movies,
Oh, of
for
course.
TV shows, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and the way that I see it, especially, is the good thing with comics is you're able to take more risks. You don't have like FCC kind of like, you can only do this on television kind of thing. You
Hmm.
could stretch the limit. Like if you read like a Thanos comic, like they're quite gory. They're quite gory. They show a lot of blood. There's swearing. Like, they know that they could kind of do whatever they want in the comics, even with Marvel, because the comic code doesn't exist anymore. That was gotten rid of in the late 90s. And they were just able to do stuff. What up, Steven? And it's one of these things that the way that I see it is I could see how that the comic stuff they could keep doing what they want to do. They could do whatever they want, in all honesty, because it's not too important on the mainstream. But the movies, which are the bread and butter, they really need to kind of get that, all those ducks in one line. The Bumblebee movie was the right direction, but it really was just the beginning of what was the right direction. Meaning, like, if the Bumblebee movie was giving the intensity of what I wanted of, like, 4, I hope that the next one will be 6 or 7, and then the third movie will be like a 10, where it's like you need to have that direction. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, we don't know what is this Beast Wars movie going to be. What is this CG movie that they keep talking about? Tom DeSanto is dropping all these things where they're just kind of going like, okay, we want to do this, we want to do that. We don't like, but Aaron Archer said one of the biggest weaknesses of the Michael Bay era was they were doing a new movie every second year. And they felt burnt out. They felt like, we're giving them too much. And they did that because they were trying to keep up with Marvel, because Marvel was doing like a new movie every 6 months. But,
exactly.
But they didn't realize that, the Marvel movies, they're all kind of their own entities and directors and actors, where like these Bay movies, up to a point, it was usually the same cast, more or less, rotating out people here and there. But it was always the same director, same crew. It's always Paramount. Probably the same stunt guys. So it was a lot more complicated, and they burned themselves out, and it obviously there was a decline domestically in terms of people that were seeing the movie. Age of Extinction was the first time that the numbers were going down, and then you had The Last Night, the numbers went down more, and even Bumblebee movie, as much as it was a success, the numbers were still nothing compared to, let's say, Revenge of the Fallen or Dark of the Moon. But I mean, there's a lot of ways that I would, keep the brand fresh. You got to, number one, Transformers is a toy brand. That's where it starts. That's where the core of it is. Without the toys, you don't have everything else. It's like you could have like all these big Marvel movies or Marvel comics. If there was no toys, it would suck. But at the same time, it's not expected. People wouldn't go like, but we need Marvel Legends. It's not integral to what is the identity of their brand. Transformers, it's a toy before it is anything else. Like, and what it'll always be, if there's no cartoons, if there's no comics, if there's no movies, there'll always be toys. And that's always been the standing thing. And you got to keep that toy brand fresh. And then the movies, even though fictionally are not the biggest thing for us as hardcore fans, they are the most important thing from a mainstream kind of identity. And that's how you keep the brand alive, is a good, strong toy brand, and a very good and the toy brand important for the retail and for the fans, and then a good, strong movie brand, so that you, number one, keep the mainstream interest high, but you also keep all those old fans, and then you bring in new ones too. I keep telling this story. I'll never forget. Like, Facebook 2006, Facebook 2007. I had this little Transformer group in Montreal. It's called the Montreal Transformers Group. It was like 8 guys in 2006. After 2007, there was like 133 people. Just out of nowhere were Transformer fans. Even people we know personally, out of nowhere, were Transformer fans. It's just something that it's important, because it brings in new people, it brings in fresh blood, and I can't stress that enough. Anything else you want to say?
I was gonna say, I know for me, I would try to branch out other characters. So it's just like how they did the Bumblebee movie and try to make a solid standalone movie specifically for Bumblebee. Maybe I'd try to do that with other characters I think that can hold a whole story, and try to expand outside of the, I guess, what we would call the main. What was the number you gave? Main 6. The number.
The legendary 7. The legendary.
The characters that everyone that's not even a Transformers fan knows, those characters, like Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream.
It's always Optimus.
Devastator.
It's Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Grimlock. Those are the Autobots that everyone remembers. And then on the Decepticons, you got Megatron, Soundwave, Starscream, and Devastator. It's always those guys that you go to that well, and those are the dudes that will always make you money. Like if you're gonna do a toy line that's like the pop vinyls, like if you're gonna do like 7 pop vinyls and you told me which 7 would you pick, it's like I ain't putting Hot Rod, I ain't putting Jazz, I ain't putting like Prowl. I know that those are the 7 you do first, and then after those 7 sell like gangbusters, then you could open it up to everything else afterwards.
Yeah.
Someone
that's
asked.
that's the way I was kind of looking
Sorry,
at
what were you
it.
gonna say? Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so I was thinking I would kind of look at it because I mean, another way Transformers is doing I wouldn't say the exact same thing as Ninja Turtles, but they're always like, oh, we have the Cyberverse, oh, we have the Rescue Heroes, oh, like they're always trying to reinvent and kind of make a new one, either for new generation or for past generation. Like they're always kind of doing a new series kind of thing. So
well,
I mean, they're still in the zeitgeist, the mainstream zeitgeist, but making them become a brand that's bigger or as popular as Marvel and Star Wars.
Well,
that's tough. Like I feel with Star Wars, you gotta. I'm just to say with Star Wars, I feel like you have to have a time where there was nothing. All you had was books. All you had was magazines. All I had was books, comic books, video games, filling in the gap between the prequel, the Return of the Jedi, and the first prequel. So when you came back, everyone's raring for it. Everyone's like chomping at the bits to get it. You got to be missed before you can go like that.
Also had like the thing with Star Wars especially is that was a brand that had multiple generations of fans. Where by the time to not get off the topic, but to go with Star Wars just for a second, like by the time those special editions came out in 1997, that's when they started also rolling out like those Power of the Force toys, and that was all aimed at a generation of kids that didn't grow up in the late 70s with Star Wars or the early 80s. And so they, it's the same thing. Transformers is slowly reaching that Star Wars, pantheon, where it's like now you have the old school generation of G1 fans, then you have the guys in the 90s who grew up on Beast Wars, then you have the 2000 kids that had the Unicron trilogy, and then you have the late 2000 kids who are like the movieverse kids that liked animated and Transformers Prime and the Michael Bay movies. So where Star Wars, because they were just, like you said, they were compact, you really just had those movies, and then for the really hardcore fans, they went to comic books and supplemental material, which really, we refer to as the Legends.
Yeah, they bundled it into Legends now.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of one of those things where I say it might have happened. We could pull from it.
We could take from that, but
it's not part of the continuity at the moment until we deemed it to be.
We have another question here. Why is the Gridman designs influenced by Transformers? To answer that one, you're referring to the SSS Gridman anime series.
Because it's basically, what if the alternate universe was that Protoman got to write Gridman stuff and then inserted all the stuff from past oh come on, I could do this, from past BotCon stuff.
Yeah. Well, the truth of the matter is that there's an individual, I believe his name is Hayato Oshima or something. He's one of the designers for all the characters in Gridman, and there's this beautiful shot of his desk that he works at, and it's all just like Transformer toys, even third party, like even collects third party Transformers, this Japanese designer, and he just uses that as his inspiration. Like he just thinks like, oh, we're gonna have like 4 characters in the background standing next to each other. Why don't we do the 4 different colors that Jetfire came in? Like he kind of like, it's all these little things that the fans could look at. And I know me, the second that started becoming a thing, I would literally watch every episode of Gridman, and I'd have my finger over the space bar button, just so I could pause it, because every time there was a crowd shot, pause. All right, look. Okay, good. Next, keep going. Like it became crazy.
I wonder if that guy knows Azusa very well.
It's
because I think you've pointed out there's a lot of shattered glass.
Oh, there's tons of shattered glass. That's
why I asked that. I wonder if he's gone to his store and like really like, oh, this.
Someone asks, would it be cool if there was a Studio Series Ultra Magnus for a Studio Series Ultra Magnus based off of the '86 movie. So what he's asking essentially, Everything Man Cool CD is his name, is now Studio Series is going to be opening up to 1986 Transformers movie because the doorway of what is left of Studio Series characters to do is shrinking, and until we really, there's still some characters left. I'm not saying everyone has been done, but until we get new movies, there's going to be less and less characters. So Hasbro has, it seems like they've put this initiative where now they're going to be opening up Studio Series to the 1986 movie, and the rumor is, this is just a rumor, we haven't seen anything yet, is that we're going to be getting, and I haven't told you this because this is hilarious, we're going to be getting a leader class Grimlock with Wheelie based off of the throne room scene. We're going to be getting a Jazz based off of the moon base scene. We're going to be getting, we're going to be getting...
is this going to be a new Jazz, or is this going to be...
The assumption, if it's Studio Series, it's going to be animation accurate. So that's exciting.
So is this where the... I remember years ago there was a prototype for Jazz, for an MP Jazz, and we still haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And our impression was that they're still working on getting the licensing from Porsche, because they've done Bumblebee twice.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a few Audis. They've done all the Lamborghini brothers. So, and all those licensing of all those cars are owned by Volkswagen.
Yep.
So the last one is Porsche.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, any moment now. Any moment now.
So it's and what was fascinating, which was hilarious, was they also revealed today that there's going to be a leader class Slag that comes with Daniel. And
yeah.
And I was like, that is a weird pairing, because like Daniel and Slag have never been together. And here's me going like, is this like a shout out to the podcast? Like, I don't know, because I don't know what, like, it's such a weird pairing of characters. Now, granted, the Daniel's probably gonna have an exosuit and it'll justify the leader class cost. We're gonna learn more about that.
Do we know the actual color configuration of the Slag?
Yeah, if it's Canadian Slag colors, exactly.
It is. It is.
No, we don't know yet. We don't know any of it. Like,
Okay.
that's something we're gonna find out later for sure. Let's see what else we have here in terms of questions. Sorry, everything gets pushed up. Let's see. Everyone's curious about the... here we go. Weren't they going to make another movie when Revenge of the Fallen was coming out? Oh, I think they're probably talking about Marvel. There was a whole bunch of stuff that was going on with Marvel at the time when Revenge of the Fallen was out. Let's see what else. Fans Hobby Minerva doesn't have her black antennas, which is kind of iconic to the character. Yeah, I saw that. You know what? That's something that I'm pretty sure Fans Hobby is going to do a running change of that toy. Some people had like little complaints about the painting of it, but it's one of those things. I haven't gotten mine in person yet, so I don't know. Who's your least favorite G1 1984 toy? That would
you could probably look at one.
I don't know. There are a lot of them are like, when I would say least favorite, probably because there's some of them are really fragile. Like, I would have to say, let me think about that one. If I had to like settle on one, maybe I'd go with, and only because their designs could be better, like Ironhide and Ratchet, just because they didn't have their heads. And again, it's not the fault of it.
As a kid, I've never seen those in the wild. So, like, imagine me seeing them as a kid and be like, what?
You would think they were broken. You'd be like, where's his head?
Like, where's the rest of this?
You know?
Here's a paper head.
I'd have to say those, but even then I can't blame them, because when you learn about the origin of what the story is with that, where those were actually like power loader suits for the little Diclon drivers, you know, so it makes sense. And like the seat that Ironhide was just the seat backwards with his sticker face on it. But yeah, I'll go with Ironhide and Ratchet just because. But even then, like I have a soft spot for the '84 stuff and that early '85 stuff, because it's all that real vehicle stuff that we don't get a lot of today.
Like all the actual licensed vehicles, basically. Let me see. What's his name? Wheeljack.
Wheeljack wasn't too bad.
I want to see what he looks like in actual. because I think he just has very, very long arms. If I'm
Yeah,
looking
he
at the
does.
right one.
Yeah, he has like gorilla arms. He does.
Yeah. So maybe,
And the way the articulation works, it's like he has. It's like he's like a gorilla. Like they only go like inward. You know.
yeah. I would if like if I had to pick a different transformer from you, I would probably say Wheeljack. But that vehicle mode is like awesome, and just the way he looks in his alt mode and his robot mode looks very, very weird. Like he's just very stout. The canopy, the cockpit roof line kind of hangs over his legs, so it makes him look like a gorilla. Like him looks way shorter than he actually is.
Someone brought up
But
even Mirage. Yeah, the problem with the Mirage mold was that white plastic that was used on it. And I have the problem even with mine. When I first got mine, like you would open it up to make the legs and it stays fine, and then slowly it just kind of goes back down. And also, like people have mentioned, the waist sometimes is really fragile too. I haven't encountered that, and I've handled quite a few G1 Mirages, but I have heard how the waist is really fragile too. Stephen Joyce wants to know, do you think we will ever get new Autobot Target Masters to go with the 3 Decepticon counterparts from Titan Returns? I think so. I think that, like, what I think is if Transformers Kingdom is what we think it's going to be in its complete Beast Wars form, I think that that's probably why we're having this studio series go into the Generation 1 movie, because we're going to have a primarily Beast Wars, like, I guess, Generations-esque line. And if you need your G1 fix, you would just get it through studio series. So I think we will return to Target Masters and Pretenders and all that stuff. But I think look, all these themes, they usually take like a year and a half. So I think that after that theme does its course, we'll start returning to that. And not to mention, that doesn't stop from, let's say, Hasbro and their Hasbro Select line from their Hasbro. They could do stuff on the side and go, hey, we're going to do this Target Master while we're doing all this Beast Wars stuff, because they do whatever they want on the side there. Yeah, but that's more or less my thoughts on that. 1 sec, gotta scroll more. Do you think we will get the blaster in the Nest part of the trilogy? Are you referring to the Dark of the Moon blaster toy?
Which one is that?
That was they showed it at HasCon. It was they took the Mercedes Soundwave that was from Dark of the Moon, and they gave it blaster colors, and it looked gorgeous. It looked really nice. It was like a red Mercedes, and it never got released. And they showed it like the final product, like it was like it could have been put in package and ready to go. They showed it at HasCon, where they showed all these prototypes because they were right near Rhode Island. So they brought a whole bunch of cool prototypes, and it looked so good in person. And some people took some really nice photos of it, and I talked about it afterwards. Oh, wasn't
Guess what I just did? I typed it into Google, and one of the first videos to pop up was from Transformers Slag podcast,
there you
October
go.
23rd, 2018.
Yeah, well, but that's why.
What happened to Dark of the Moon blaster?
because when we went to HasCon and we saw it, a lot of people saw it and went like, "Oh man, like this was going to be a thing," and it was like literally, it's like it wasn't like a resin prototype; it was like ready to be packaged. And I completely misread the question because it wasn't Nest; it was Next. So do you think we will get a blaster in the next part of the trilogy? Well, again, if they're going with Beast Wars, from what it looks like they're trying to do this. Like there's these different price points, and G1 characters are going to be kind of like put to the wayside a little bit with these different price points. Blaster, if they're doing a time travel thing and Blaster's coming back in time as a boombox, I don't know. I think they're gonna probably. I think they're gonna focus on the big core characters. Like they'll put like a Jazz, they'll put a Starscream, they'll put a Megatron, a Soundwave. But I think that the primary focus will be, if you have 4 deluxes in a wave, you're gonna do 3 Beast Wars characters, 1 G1 character, and if you're gonna put 1 G1 character, that's where those Legendary 7 fall in, and then they're gonna like try to spread those out among the price points. But I think there's still gonna be more of a focus on to Beast Wars. I mean, to me, as much as I love Blaster, I have a very strong place for Blaster because he was my first Transformer. I rather a new Beast Wars Inferno than a Blaster, because I feel that now is the time to get good Beast Wars toys, and we have like forever to get good Blaster toys. Like that could happen. Not to mention there's a Blaster reissue coming too from Walmart. They're doing the G1 reissue. So
I was gonna say that probably I can see them doing maybe a studio series, but maybe a Hasbro Select studio. Like it has to be like a very, very niche thing in a limited number. Like if they're gonna show us a close to done product and then probably sit on it because they're not gonna do it.
Oh yeah,
I could see them.
with
I
the
could see
Dark
them
of the
just
Moon.
doing it like a studio series, but select. So like, it's like a mail order kind of thing and off kind of thing like that.
I don't think that, like, honestly, like I don't even think because it's a God, it's a 2012 mold, I think it was, or 2011. I don't even think like the modern budget would cut it today. Like the way that they make toys. I just recently opened up. I don't know if you'll be able to. I recently opened up one of the Cyberverse toys, and I was just reminded like how hollow, a lot of these figures are, and it's just it's crazy. What passes as a deluxe kind of today and everything, and I don't know. Do you think the new Cyclonus mold will be part of the 1986 studio series? That's what I think it is. I honestly do. I think it's a Voyager scale, and it's good. Like there's this 86 studio series line. We don't know enough about it, and it's just one of those things that like if we had San Diego Comic-Con, coming, if we had all that stuff, it's all stuff we would have known. And I mean, Hasbro keeps talking about like they want to do more of this Fan First Friday kind of streams thing, and they haven't done one since the first one they did it for Transformers. They did one. They showed off a bunch of cool stuff. It was pretty hype.
Yeah.
It was cool what they did, but they said, oh, we want to do more of them, but they haven't done one since. And so
that's the part I'm a little bit sad about, that they haven't been able to do another one. But I don't know. I would be down for like if you did one every other Friday or something.
Well, especially in the absence of conventions. Like it's, I mean, the way that this is going, we're probably not even going to have a toy fair. We're not going to have like toy fairs in New York. Like that can't happen.
Oh yeah. Do you think they'd do a virtual one?
Well, that's what I think. I think that the only way that these companies, and it sucks for the small companies, but for the big companies at least, the only way that they're able to get the word out to distributors and everything like that is they're going to have to do these like they're going to have to do like a toy fair website, and they're going to have to like make a schedule that's streaming. Like if you come by at 7:00, it's going to be
it'd be like a streaming, or they would have a maybe that toy company or what have you would do their own little vignette or something like that.
Oh, well, that's what I think. I think that because especially it's not so much about Hasbro. Hasbro has the pull. They could go to IGN. They could go to all the different websites and go, hey, do you want to host our big reveals? But I feel sorry for the small companies that also go to Toy Fair that we never hear about. Because from what I've been told is like when you go to Toy Fair, like there's the big room that they do all like the stuff. And then there's like these smaller rooms on the side where the small, more independent toy companies are there. And they're doing their thing, and they're like going, hey, here's our product that we're doing. Sometimes it's educational toys and everything like that. It's not just the big licensed branded stuff. And
sounds very similar to E3 or the Electronic Expo. No, sorry. CES is what I want to say. Sorry. So E3, the video game one, and the CES, which is more electronics and tech, where you always have like your Samsungs, your Nintendos, your Sonys, but Sony's not in E3, whatever. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you always have the other small people that like, oh, you're doing something really interesting, and we wouldn't have found you if we didn't go off the beaten road of this convention and turn right, And you get like these more interesting things going on.
We got a question here. Would you like to see more unique combiners like Railracer and Magna Boss get modern figures? Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
I think that because Hasbro now has dabbled so much with combiners and creating a unique combiner system, that something like a Magna Boss or a Tripredicus or a Railracer could easily be something in the future. I think that will lean more towards Magna Boss though, because of what we know is going to be the future of the main line. Will there be combiners? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I think from what we read, the gimmick that they're going with is they're kind of evolving the weaponizer target master gimmick. They're doing something called, again, this is all rumor. It's called fossilizers, which are going to be like these miniature dinosaurs that become armor for them, like dino bone armor. And I mean, that's the description. We have no images of this. This is just what the description is. and we'll see more how that plays into the story. What I find really interesting with all of that though is because like we have the Siege series. When that's done, we're gonna have Earthrise, which already Hasbro confirmed is gonna be the next. That's gonna be the title of the next Netflix series. Will be Earthrise. And then does that mean that then afterwards we will? I mean, does this confirm that then the trilogy will end with something Beast Wars? That would be crazy. Like to get Beast Wars back in CG again and back on TV. I
Well,
mean,
one thing I think is pretty cool is that I remember for years when we didn't get any combiners, and you and I were kind of like, we don't know how the engineers are going to do combiners. We don't know how they're going to combine. Da, 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 da. And just to see them evolve and try something, and then okay, that didn't work. This didn't work. This is kind of working, and then now they kind of have their stride with it, with the recent combiners that they've had now, and what they've put out recently. And at first it was just like, okay, we're just only use vehicles, but now you have the what was it, Abominus, and what's the water one called again? I forgot.
Seacons.
The Seacons and stuff like that. Like, so they're kind of branching out from that and making them look more like more mutants or more animal based and stuff like that.
It's also because
it's pretty cool.
It used to be back in the day, like during the Aaron Archer era, when Energon did combiners, which was the return of combiners in a big way outside of course Magboss and Tripredicus. When they did that, the big problem that they had was like, man, what do we do with these molds afterwards? Like, you have to, like, now you're not gonna release these individually. You're gonna want to keep reissuing them, and they like milked those molds for years because they wanted to make that money back. Like those Energon combiner molds were used in Movieverse. Like they just repainted them and threw them as movie toys even, and that was always their fear, and that's why combiners in that Aaron Archer era weren't really a thing, because their fear was always like, after you do that, let's say construction vehicle for Devastator, what do you repaint it into afterwards to get a new character out of it? What was unique about the new era, at least in the case of, like, let's say with John Ward and stuff, was there's this heavy emphasis on retooling, where you mentioned before, like the Seacons, what's crazy about them is the Seacons were retools from Abominus. And they could have not been, like, if you put those two toys next to each other in alt mode, they're practically two different toys, but when you put them in robot mode, you see the skeleton the skeleton of what it was. So there's so much of a stronger emphasis on retooling that anything is possible now, where you could take like a Jazz and go like, okay, here's a Jazz toy, and then you could totally retool him that he's Braver from Transformers Victory, because they're both kind of those, like, Porsche but not Porsche, Le Mans cars. And
or like, do what Plow King does with every single
Jazz, whatever Jazz
generation Jazz.
A new Jazz every time. But yeah, it's just that's something I could always see. Like, again, I always look forward to more combiners, but right now I think we have to wait for the right time to do them. I could see combiners in, let's say, like that the Commander class that exists now, like the larger class, which what they've used for Skylinks and stuff. But otherwise, I think right now, like, to do like deluxes and stuff like that sold individually in retail, I don't want to say it's a waste of space, but it's just you want to use those deluxe slots for retail wisely when you have a new gimmick, especially when we're going into Beast Wars. Next question. I think there'll be another set of Seekers in the Studio Series line, at least Coronation, Starscream. I think that, in all honesty, when it comes to Seekers, we just recently had an announcement that they're going to be doing Masterpiece Seekers again. So we're gonna get a 3.0 Starscream. So they're going to milk that. I don't think we're going to get a Coronation Starscream Seeker just yet, when we're so close to, like, the Earthrise one existing. Like, I mean, I could see them, I don't know, doing a Hasbro Select thing where they release the Earthrise Starscream, they give it the Coronation accessories, because look, now they're starting to do accessories with the Hasbro Pulse website, and saying, oh, that's Studio Series Coronation Star. I could see them doing that, but to do a whole new one so close to already what we have, I don't think that'll be something anytime soon. But I could be wrong. Who knows? Sometimes they do something really close. What do you think of the Transformers War for Cybertron Netflix Ultra Magnus was supposed to be an SDCC or New York Comic Con exclusive, and how the packaging looks? I honestly, I firmly believe that the Ultra Magnus was always meant to be a. I mean, I understand what you mean about the packaging. The packaging is very similar to something that San Diego Comic Con would do. I'm reminded of, if anyone could Google this, Transformers Prime. They did this Shockwave's Lab box set, which had a very similar kind of style to this Netflix Ultra Magnus box. And so it looks similar to it. It looks like something that San Diego Comic-Con would have done. But at the same time, I feel that San Diego Comic-Con now, because they know that they're really the only place that, convention exclusives could exist now in the immediate future for Hasbro, that they probably plan stuff way in advance, and there's very few things that get canceled. I think that, and not to mention, I'm pretty sure the Netflix War for Cybertron Ultra Magnus was always meant to be Walmart, considering that all the Netflix War for Cybertron stuff is Walmart exclusives. So I'm pretty sure that was, there's always, like Aaron Archer always talks about it, there's always those few items and then the big Christmas item. And I think that that was the big Christmas item for Walmart, for at least for that line. But yeah, I have a question. Do you think we will get a Jazz in Kingdom? We'll see about that.
Yeah.
We have a Jazz coming in Funko Pop. We have a Jazz coming supposedly in Studio Series. I don't think they'll do a Jazz in Kingdom just yet. We have a super chat question that popped up from DownrightSuperb. Who should direct a Beast Wars movie? Is it even possible to do the dormant Autobot Decepticon plot? Would it be too confusing for the audience? I don't think it would be too... Well, I'll start with the last part. I don't think it would be too confusing for the audience. Because, look, moviegoers aren't that dumb. They'll go back and watch stuff on Netflix if they have to. Like, if a Beast Wars movie is coming and the marketing makes it sound like it's part of that universe, look, all those Michael Bay movies are a click away, and the Bumblebee movie are a click away on Netflix. So it's go ahead.
I would kind of say you can't do the dormant Autobot Decepticon plot if you're going to do if you're continuing off of the Bayverse, because that's what sadly everybody knows. Yep. And when you watch the beginning of that Bayverse, they're falling from the sky. The only person that's dormant is Megatron. And
they keep retconning that anyways, where it's like, oh, yes, Bumblebee was here. Yeah,
Bumblebee was here since World War II or what have you,
So, the way that I see it is the plot that they could do if they did do a Beast Wars movie is just, it's similar to, I feel like the Dinobots were in Age of Extinction, which is like, you could just have, oh, hey, there was a group that was down here during this time, and they could do some... That's assuming that it's even tied into the Bayverse. Me, personally...
Or what about the last... Didn't they do that also with The Last Night as well?
Yeah, of course. Every Michael Bay movie is, hey, that time period in our history? Yeah, Transformers, so... It's what's that guy there? It's what's the guy with the memes where he's always like, it's aliens, and he has the crazy hair?
Oh, that's Ancient Aliens. Yeah.
Oh God,
Ancient Aliens.
Aliens.
But don't they also do that? Didn't they do that with the Japanese Unicron trilogy, where it's like there's always this new scientist, and he's like, no, actually, this is this thing. And then the next series is like, no, actually, it's this thing.
Not really. No, they were kind of marching forward with the Unicron trilogy with story and stuff. The Bayverse really was the first to kind of really do that. And also, they asked, who do you think should direct it? Well, let's put it this way, and this is my out of nowhere answer. If it's a Beast Wars movie that's done in prehistoric Earth, and it really is just focusing on prehistoric Earth and the characters, I'm going to go with Peter Jackson a la King Kong. I'm going to go with that. He might even be terrible for it, but it's just from personal experience. I liked that movie, and I'm going, okay, let's make him have Optimus Primal versus Megatron. Let's see how he would do it.
I would go with Brad Bird.
And why would you say that?
He's directed The Incredibles 1, Incredibles 2, Ratatouille, The Iron Giant.
Okay, so you're going with a CG guy. Okay.
I'm going with a guy that knows animation, because again, Brad Bird did the Iron Giant, if you remember that movie.
Yes, a very good movie.
Yeah, so I would go with someone that has a good sense of animation, of space, and like really good at storytelling. I think he did one of the Mission Impossible movies too. I think he did 4, I want to say.
Someone will correct us.
Oh, he also other miscellaneous crew that he's done. He's done the TV series as executive consultant on The Critic.
Okay.
He's done episodes of
Jay Sherman.
King of the Hill, The Simpsons. Let me see here. There we go, director. Yeah, Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol. So I think he would be good. Like, he'd probably be in the same vein as the director for Bumblebee.
So we have also a question. So sorry, I didn't know you were done. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, that's it. I'm done.
So Brad Bird. Also have a question here. Do you think the Kingdom figures will be compatible with the modular system from the last 2 years? Well, it's not even from the last 2 years. The modular system really is just an evolution of the 3mm peg that has kind of been a standard in Transformers since, like, I want to say, like, Energon. Like, the 3mm peg was brought in Energon, and it really kind of has been kept in for a majority of the toys. So I think that they'll keep it. They said already that they're going to kind of change weaponizers to this fossilizers. So it sounds like they're going to keep the modular system, which is kind of what those Micromaster bases are. That's a matter if they're going to keep doing Micromaster bases, which it sounds like they're not. So for now, who knows? They might return. Yeah. It's in the same way that I'm still holding out that one day we're going to see these guys return, the Pretender shells. But one day I hope.
But I thought those were pretty cool. Like,
I love those.
What we ended up getting as Pretender shells, or like a not a placeholder, but like, hey, we know about Pretender shells. We do remember.
Yeah.
But
No, the fact that we got them at all, in my opinion, was a miracle, because I always thought they would never do that. Do you know what toys would have been included in the other 2 sets that were not released for the Titan Returns box sets of Siege for Cybertron and Chaos? That we don't know. Those box sets, when you look at them, I'm telling you, those were they looked like stuff that BotCon would have done. Like that was the vibe that I got every time I saw those box sets. I'm like, those were BotCon box sets that never happened. They weren't, though. Like, I know for a fact, working with FunPub, that isn't the story of it, but they so have that vibe, just the way they were shaped and everything. So, but who knows? That I don't know that information personally. Is it still possible to get a Commander class Star Saber or Death Source in Kingdom? I think that those 2 characters, if they don't have a place in Kingdom, they could exist in Hasbro Pulse. I think Hasbro Pulse seems to be the go-to when they want to do a collector character. Look, we're getting Tiger Tracks, which is the yellow repaint of Sideswipe that isn't Sunstreaker, through Hasbro Pulse. So that says right away that that's the market for it.
Do you think they would do that? They would grab other characters that aren't from Beast Wars, but have a Beast theme and throw them in there?
Well, to give an example, again, like right now is Earthrise, right? Which is the emphasis on it is it's G1 on Earth. And the Hasbro Pulse stuff is giving us all kinds of product that isn't part of that narrative. Like, again, that Tiger Tracks toy is a Cybertronian Sideswipe from the Siege line. So it's not out of the question in my mind that while there's this ongoing retail story, as I want to call it, with whatever Kingdom will be, they could always go back and do whatever they want with the collector market. And not to mention, Hasbro is starting to really have a big relationship with Walmart. And Walmart is going to be doing their Walmart Collector Con. I don't know if you heard about this. Where it's not a convention, but they're kind of like they're trying to build a collector market because they know that the power vacuum that was created when Toys R Us disappeared is making them and I mean we talked about it on the podcast, like, hey, what happened with that KB thing? I guess that didn't work out, So,
yeah, that's true.
So in the end it really is going to be Walmart, at least for the immediate future, and of course Toys R Us, Target for the States, but Do you think we'll be getting Transformers Selects Bumblebee? I think we'll get a Bumblebee in that immediate Kingdom line. I think they'll find a place for Bumblebee there, for sure. Bumblebee and Rat Trap together, like totally. Like I could see that. I could see them both being in the same price point together. Like I could see it happening.
Oh, I thought you were talking about in the show.
Oh, and
They'll just
well,
be talking to each
well,
other.
who knows?
"Oh,
That's something.
look at this young hot shot over here.
Honestly, like I was talking about this on the segment too, but I was saying how like I look at this Beast Wars Kingdom kind of thing, and I see Hasbro planting the seeds to have all those trademarks ready for when they do the movie. That's the way I look at it, and it's the same thing where it's like whatever happens in this will be all those, like Railracer is part of that lineup, so it kind of tells us, oh, Railracer is probably going to be in that Beast Wars movie. You know, like she's not going to be like a sequel character. She'll be in that first movie because you're seeing all these trademarks getting tied up by doing this. And so I always talk about trademarks on the podcast, so that's like that'll be your indicator. But like what this also tells me is like we're going to be going from the Netflix Siege series to Netflix Earthrise, and by the time we get to Netflix Kingdom, which will probably be Beast Wars flavored, it'll probably coincide with that Beast Wars movie being out, and we might get that Bumblebee Rat Trap interaction. Who knows how the story will play out, but that would be something cool to see.
Trademarks, what was it? Trademarks be like spoilers, Marvel movie spoilers in Toy Fair.
Oh yeah. If you're a Marvel fan, God, like all those trademarks ruin every like appearance in every Marvel movie.
I remember I told somebody, oh, do not go to this store and go into the Lego section because it's going to spoil it's going to spoil a spoiler about Ant-Man in what was it called? Civil War.
Yeah.
So the fact that he becomes Giant Man.
Well, the problem with those Lego sets is
that was before the trailer even came out for that.
The problem with those Lego sets too is they have like the name of the scene, like it'll be like "Return from Time" or something, you know, because those Lego sets are scenes in a lot of ways.
And sometimes they're not real too. Like sometimes they're just scenes that are just made up, or probably from an earlier draft of the movie or what have you.
So we have a question here. Do you think Hasbro will ever do MP mini bots outside of Bumblebee? I think they will, but it's just that the problem is that all those other mini bots really are like second to third tier characters. Like I always say to people, like, okay, Bumblebee's number one. Who's number two? And that's you know, it's like even me, I'm going like, ooh, that's a tough one.
I've already got an idea for a Brawn one.
Brawn is
like, I already have an idea for a Brawn one. You make him look like he gets destroyed because he gets shot in the chest or the arm.
The arm.
And then he could pull him apart like they did for Studio Series Jazz kind of thing. And you put him next to your MP Megatron.
But getting back to what I was saying though, it's like to me it's like who would you use? You know what I mean? Like who would you like who is enough of an equity of a character that is, I mean, obviously it's not Bumblebee's level, but who's that close second place? There's nobody. Like I mean, some people would argue, oh, it's got to be Cliffjumper, or maybe it's Beachcomber, maybe it's Huffer, maybe they're all kind of equal. And I love the mini bots. Don't get me wrong. Like they're some of my favorite characters, but even me, I'm kind of going like, I don't know. I do not know who they would have gone with. That's a really complicated one. Where we got here? Do you think the Transformers RED line will be part of Generations and have RED red packaging? So I don't know if you know about this, JawzD. So they announced that they're going to be doing a Transformers RED line, which is going to be like Marvel Legends, non-transformable action figures of Transformers, like just really nice looking non-transformable figures, but like literally done in the price point and size of like Marvel Legends. And in all honesty, to answer Star Max's question, I think it was Star Max's question. I'm trying to see who asked it here. Oh, excuse me, it was Roy's question. It's something that I see it being kind of like Marvel Legends. It's going to be its own packaging and have like it'll be separate from the generation stuff. It'll be like its own entity, kind of like how like you didn't associate Mighty Mugs with anything, or you didn't associate Titaniums with anything. It was just its own brand, and I feel I want to do a segment about this on the future because I want to talk about the history of non-transformable Transformer product and mainline, and I feel that this line is going to be very similar to how Funko kind of handles their stuff, where it's made for a more mainstream audience. Where is Transformers too complicated for you, but you still want to have an iconic G1 Optimus Prime on your table? Get this instead. You know, like I think that's a more desk former kind. I use the term kind of.
Didn't
thing.
they do a statue series as well?
Oh, they've done
Unleashed?
Tons of stuff. They've done.
Is that what it was?
There
Unleashed,
was,
or is that the Star Wars one?
No, Unleashed was with Transformers too. Yeah, it was a Hasbro wide gimmick. They used it with Star Wars. They used it with Transformers. There was Unleashed. There's so many. Japan did the Mega PVC line. Like I'm just looking at just movie stuff. Like there was the Robo replicas with the movie stuff, which were all like these non-Revoltech kind of, you know, and those existed. There was a whole line of those that were like, I'm looking at them right now. There's got to be at least a dozen characters, including the Fallen and everything. It existed back then. There was lines of non-transformable Transformer stuff that it coexisted. So it's not a weird idea, but it's the first time that they're doing something where it's going to be similar to the Marvel Legends, where swappable heads, swappable hands, you know, like but non-transformable. Like and done in a Marvel Legends price point and size, it's going to be a 6-inch figure. So I tell people, if you want to get an idea of what the line's going to be, go out right now and buy Black Series Star Wars or Marvel Legends figures, and you're going to get 100% what I think that product is going to feel like, budget-wise and everything. I even think they're not going to be made in Vietnam. I think they'll be made in China, just like Black Series and Marvel Legends.
Do you think that they'll come with a Build-A-Figure if you collect them all, kind of thing?
That is what I talked about too. They haven't haven't indicated that. They haven't indicated it, but I think that's totally going to happen. Like think about a wave of figures with that stuff is 6, right? Yeah. That's easily a combiner team. You know what I mean? You could easily do Devastator's leg, Devastator's other leg. You know what I mean? Like that's a combiner team. That's Unicron. That's Primus. That's Autobot X. There's so many of the, like you could do your large characters for those Build-A-Figures that Marvel does all the time. They go, okay, Sentinel this wave, Juggernaut the next one, Kingpin. You know, they always do the big guys. And so I could totally see that happening. And it would actually be smart, because then it would prevent people from just going, oh, I just want Optimus. Now there's going to be that incentive. Well, the Build-A-Figure idea was created by Marvel because toy stores were losing confidence in the Marvel Legends line. Because every release, they would always do like, okay, here's a bunch of characters and a Wolverine, right? And they would do that because they felt, well, you can't just do a wave without a Wolverine or a Spider-Man. So they were doing that, but then they were ending up stuck with leftover stuff. So retailers were losing confidence in them, and Marvel's like, okay, if we do the Build-A-Figure thing, people are going to have to now buy a whole wave to get that one premium figure. And it worked, and the Marvel Legends line is gangbusters, and it makes big money. So, what do we have here? Can we please see a Studio Series Unicron for the 86 line? Well, I don't know. Studio Series 86 Unicron would have to be in that Titan class if they ever decide to do that. But the thing is that Studio Series...
And they would have to scale back, no?
Well, here's the thing. Studio Series is all about scale. So I don't know how they would do that. Like,
well, I mean, in the sense of like how we've had... Remember we were reading that article where they're saying like, oh, we made the first MP Optimus Prime, then they made the second one, and oh man, what do we do with this third one? We don't know. And then they ended up doing what was it? What was that? Oh, geez, was it No, it wasn't Siege. It was the one where the Optimus Prime, where Orion Pax merges with the trailer
Power
and
of
becomes
the Primes.
Power of the Primes Optimus Prime, where it was basically a more pared down masterpiece. And then even now with the newer Optimus Prime, it feels like it's a even more pared down masterpiece.
Oh yeah. Well, the way that I see it is, Studio Series right now, the highest price point it has is leader class, and
Mhm.
people wouldn't like. I mean, I understand people have different budgets, but I'm pretty sure most people would like to have something that isn't a leader class Unicron. They would want something larger. Um, I mean, Aaron Archer talked about how, like, in Cybertron they did a deluxe class Unicron just
Oh, wow.
because like they felt bad. Cybertron
Mhm.
was the first line where they were like, you know what, we want to make an affordable price point for every character for every budget,
Okay.
and they were the ones that started Legends class, Deluxe class. Like, you could have a Legends class Optimus Prime, a Deluxe class Optimus Prime, a Leader class Optimus Prime. They started that. Technically, Beast Machine started it with Cheetor, but it wasn't like across all the characters. Where with
Right.
Cybertron, it was across a majority of the characters. Like, just looking that, Hotshot had multiple price points, Jetfire had multiple price points. And so they did the same thing. They're like, hey, Unicron, who's always going to be a supreme scale toy, why don't we do a
Yeah.
deluxe one? And they did one, and hey, they were happy with it. I liked it. I thought it was kind of unique. What's next here? Do you think the story for War for Cybertron will continue with another trilogy if it's successful? I mean, look, we haven't even gotten the first episode of the first part of the trilogy.
Yeah.
This could all be a giant mess for all we know, and no one likes it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm openly skeptical, but also hoping for the best. Just because from you know who I'm talking about, Wendell Lee J, who's a big fan of
Mhm.
Ruby.
Yeah.
It's the same guys that do that stuff, and
Oh, okay.
so I asked him to show me some good examples of Ruby, and I was like, it's good for anime, but I don't
Hmm.
know if it works for, like, I don't know.
I want to say the guy that did Ruby. I could be completely wrong. Remember back in the day there was Dead Fantasy?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that
Yeah,
where they
yeah.
had all the Final Fantasy girls fighting each other?
I think
I
that
think
was
that
the same guy. Yeah,
I think it's the same lineage Ruby is. So
yeah.
Ruby's
It
just
was it was Dead
his
or
own
Alive in
story.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it might be a little bit easier to do when the characters aren't humanoid looking; they're more robots.
Well, that's why I like.
And they're definitely gonna have more like kung fu fighting. I would assume. But again, we haven't seen anything yet, so I
I
mean, there's not much we could really say
We
about
saw
it.
the trailers. They're all kind of quick flashes of stuff. So
Yeah, exactly.
I
We haven't
want
seen a full session, a full scene of an
with
action sequence yet, so
well,
we
not
can't
even a
really.
matter of action sequence. To me, like, you need to, when you're watching a series, you got to kind of let it marinate as you're watching it. It's kind of like looking like at a stew as it's like cooking at a low heat, and you got to
Mhm.
kind of just, to me, that's how you judge a series. You got to really not see it when it has all its like catchphrases and everything's flying by. You have to kind
Yeah.
of catch it in those moments when things are more relaxed, and that's when you enjoy it. I actually wanted to post one of my favorite scenes from Beast Wars on Twitter, because all of this Beast Wars talk recently, to show people just why I love Beast Wars so much. And it was the episode Guerrilla Warfare
Oh,
with
yeah.
Dinobot and Optimus Primal at the end of that episode, where he's just sitting vigil over Optimus Primal. And it's those kind of scenes where they just marinate. You know what I mean? It's not an
Mhm.
action scene, but there's
Yeah.
just something there that says this series is so much different from everyone else's. And that's why, like, I'm right now, when it comes to it, I'm skeptical, but at the same time, I want it to to do well. I was so skeptical of it at one point that one of the writers for the Netflix series commented on one of the videos.
Oh.
Yeah, FJ Santo, I want to say his name was. Um, he actually, I know his work because I've read some of his stuff in the past.
Oh, okay.
He worked on the Cyborg 009
Oh, no way.
comic book series. Like he worked on
Ah.
the remake of it. So,
Uh-huh.
and I bought and read those trade paperbacks, and I liked it a lot. It was a very good reimagining. So I like that, but
Mm,
mind you, that's more that Mega Man Cyborg kind of stuff. So
yeah.
maybe he'll do good with this too. Again,
Uh,
I'll judge it when I see it.
yeah,
I'm
exactly. I rather see it first before I pass
Oh yeah,
judgment, because
totally. Right
let's
now,
see how
the only
you
thing
can't
that
you can't you can't rate like movies is a bunch of parts all coming together kind of thing. A
the
show is too, and all that kind of stuff. So
all my judgment right now comes from what my eyes are seeing from a visual, but there's more to it than that, you know. So it's we'll definitely get to it when that time comes. Next question by Michael Turner. What up, Michael? If the rumor is true of Hasbro doing more reissues from previous Japanese-only figures, who would you like to see? For the sake of the fans, I want Minerva. Not for me, because I have Minerva. But I want it because the thing for me is that I love it when super rare Transformers get reissued because it just destroys that market. And I don't care about that. I own the Dino cassettes. I think you can even kind of see them a little bit from
like
my shop.
I find
I
it
own
so
the
weird
original.
that, like,
I don't
I feel
care
like
because the thing is
I was
for
gonna
me.
say I was gonna say really quickly.
Go
I
ahead.
feel like you're how do I put this? I remember you did a review of your Minerva a few years ago. No, you did. Okay, you did a review of was it a Minerva figure that had different faces and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was the Kotobukiya one. Yeah.
Right. And then you showed your toy Minerva next to it, and it felt like that got the word out about Minerva a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to being like, if you're a hardcore fan and you grew up with it and you knew about it and you're surfing the internet, like, oh, this one's a hard one to get, and then you kind of like opened the door and told everyone, well, Minerva's a really cool figure. This figure is really cool, and this is one of the more not tangible but affordable versions of Minerva. You know, and then and I think that same TFcon, we saw a few people pick that up that weekend.
It was because it was always a character that I really enjoyed personally, but because Master Force, especially around that time, was a very obscure series, and because when you have a good platform to talk about stuff, you use that opportunity to bring attention to things. And here's me, who I got that Kotobukiya Minerva, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do the history of this entire character. And then people going like, wow, there's a lot. It's more than just obscure. This character had a lot of stuff, just all on the other side of the ocean, the other side of the pond, as I like to call it. So again, I would like Minerva just so that the fans would be able to get it, because I want those rare figures out there. When those Dino cassettes happened, I was so happy for people because now they could get it. When they did Stepper was another one too. Stepper was like ridiculous. Yeah. He was like a $500 Headmasters exclusive Target Master character, and then the reissue came out in Japan and America, and that market just went to hell. And I was happy, but I want that though, because the thing is that people go like, don't you care about your own investment? That's speaking like I'm going to sell Minerva tomorrow. I'm not, what I mean? And in all honesty, like, the truth is that when those reissues come out, time passes. And when time passes, even those reissues go up in value. And what's gonna happen is, go ahead.
Go on, finish your thought. No, go finish your thought. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that if the day ever did come that I do sell Minerva, it'll probably be so far away from when that reissue would happen that it wouldn't make a difference. I mean, I think I would still get good money.
I was gonna say Nick Gerke said reissue Overlord and Black Zarek.
Oh,
and I was thinking that, but then I was like, but we already got the newer ones that came out. So I'm like, And we also have those third party Overlords that are out there.
I think right now what I would like to see from the reissues is, again, I want to dip more into that. Like, obviously Black Zarek and Overlord are valuable figures, but they're also valuable because they're big figures.
Yeah.
But like, to give an example, there's this character named Artfire, which I like to call it the brother character to Stepper, because Stepper was the black Jazz repaint, and that was a Target Master, and Artfire was this white Inferno repaint. And so I would like to see Artfire just get reissued, just so people who had the Stepper can now have both versions. They can have like that pair finally complete. I'd like to see. Let me.
What about Road Caesar?
Anything.
Would that be crazy?
Anything Transformers Victory, I would love. The only reason why, I just feel that those are big endeavors. Like, I feel that if they're going to do a reissue, like something like Minerva is more realistic because it's like a deluxe size car. Road Caesar is like
Nightbeat, no? Minerva's just a repaint of Nightbeat, basically, and that's not too hard to do.
It's a straight up repaint of Nightbeat. Like, nothing is different, just stickers.
I would assume with like Road Caesar, there would have to be maybe some kind of upgrade engineering, so it doesn't.
I think he would be.
I'm not super.
He would be an expensive box set, in my opinion. Like, that's why, like, same thing, like Overlord, Black Zarek. If the Optimus Prime, like, imagine without the trailer, how much was that in the States? I want to say it was $39.99.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was pretty high.
without the trailer, is $39.99. What would a Black Zarek or Overlord be? Like they'd be asking like 150, $200. So to me, I would want to tackle the small rare stuff because that way it wouldn't be too expensive for the fans and they would be able to get it. Again, that Inferno, what's good about that too is you could reissue G1 Inferno and then you could reissue Artfire on top of it. It's the same price point, same size. Minerva is more or less a bulked up deluxe car. Trying to think of some other really rare ones. I mean, I could say like, even Metal Hawk, who's also,
okay.
Pretender shells aren't that big, but Metal Hawk's really obscure. I don't know if Walmart will want to carry a Pretender shell, but I could see them like, they said the reason why this question was brought up because Hasbro said they do want to continue doing more rare Japanese stuff. I could see them doing Minerva. I could just so they could have that trademark and then they could revisit that character more times. I could see them doing. God, who else would be a good one? I'm just trying to think of like, because Dino King again, that would be a box set. Star Saber would be expensive. You can't do Browning because that's a gun.
Atlas, you can't do.
You're not going to do the Zone stuff because that's all big Micromaster bases or powered masters. Like it's something that I'm curious what they're going to do because like there is a lot of rare small stuff. Like there's these little rare Power Masters that were only available and little rare Headmasters that were only available in Japan. But in general, like we'll see what happens. I'm really curious. But Minerva really is my answer because, and stuff like Artfire because I want rare stuff to fall into the hands of fans. I want them to enjoy something that usually only stupid guys like me who spend stupid money have been able to enjoy. So it helps everybody, because again, when Stepper came out, JawzD got one. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like where JawzD would have not spent $500 on
I wouldn't have.
And not only that, you wouldn't have spent $500. Not to mention, every Stepper that I ever saw back in the day was like $500, no box, loose, stickers are damaged. So.
Yeah, I got that really really nice.
Book box reissue.
The book box, yeah, that was those. I love those. If they could bring back those,
I would love that
book box reissues.
The book box
that
reissues,
would be awesome.
The Japanese ones, the American ones, they were all amazing. Let's see where we have here. Next question. Let's see. Sorry guys, it's got to scroll through here. Do you think Studio Series will evolve to like Marvel Legends or Star Wars Black Series to a transformable figures? Studio Series is transformable figures. I think what you mean is RAD. Would it become that? I don't think so. I think that they have their own, like RAD really is what they're, they have their own thing that they're trying to do. Do you think we will finish the remaining Autobot cars just like Trax, Skids, and Jazz? I think they'll get to it. You know what? It's funny that we say that because we did finish the Autobot cars previously in Generations. We did get a Jazz. We did get a Skids. We did get a Trax. It's more, are they going to finish the Autobot cars again? That's the question. And I think they will. It's just, the one thing you have to always understand is every series has 3 waves, sometimes 4, of deluxes. And each deluxe has 4 slots. Sometimes in those later waves, that that 4th slot is a carryover from the previous wave. So in general, every time you have like a siege, that means you're going to get, if there's 4 deluxes per wave, if there's 3 waves, that's maybe 12 characters. Sometimes less, like I said, if there's a filler. So that means every time there's a series, you get 12 deluxes. You get 12 characters. And they want to pace it. You don't want to give all the good stuff at the beginning. You want to make sure you get your Sideswipe fix in Siege. You're going to get your Sunstreaker fix in Earthrise, and you'll get your Jazz fix, in Kingdom, let's say. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm saying like that's what they want to do. They want to spread it out. It's because the one thing that people fail to understand, and it's what I've said when it came to Masterpiece, I talked about it with Aaron Archer in the past, is everyone's expecting every Masterpiece of what they want to come to them now. And third party is delivering that because third party is multiple companies who are all doing their own thing. So you have like, Fantoys.
They're multiple companies. 2, they don't have to deal with marketing.
Oh, they don't have to deal with a lot of stuff.
They don't have to worry about actual brick and mortar retail and investors and stuff like that, they can kind of just bam, 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 go out
Oh,
there.
they're like
throw it out to you.
belting out tons of stuff, and when you have multiple companies all making their own masterpieces, they fill the gap. Where Hasbro and Takara, like they have to go, okay, like first quarter 2020, this masterpiece. Maybe we'll have enough engineering and time and engineers and employees and marketing to then do for this one. Look, every time there's a Wonder Festival, they go there, they do their big masterpiece reveals, they have a booth, you know, they put art everywhere, they do a whole bunch of stuff. There's a whole culture and science behind it, where the third party world, it's like, hey, here's third party TFcon panel. Hey, we're doing
here's
this.
some pictures online.
Yeah, and then there's some pictures online. Pre-orders are up on TF Source. Go get it. You know, not brought to you.
And if you're lucky, you'll get to see the prototypes at whichever fan
TFcon,
ran show. You know, so
exactly.
If you're lucky.
Where are we at here? We'll scroll down. Oops, everything just shifted again. Let me just scroll back up. Sorry, guys. One sec. If I miss any questions, just re-ask them again, because sometimes YouTube's weird with the scrolling. Any display recommendations for my nephew once he's old enough to play with Transformer figures? Are you trying to say, like, how do you want to display them while you have a kid that's young, or how do you want to display them when he's old enough to mess with them? What I always suggest is anything that's valuable or breakable, keep that out of reach. I learned, like, my father's a toy collector, and I learned at a young age, like, the stuff that was valuable was either high up on shelves or not on display at all, because my dad knew I was a climber. I would climb. I would get a chair. I would climb on the side of a piece of furniture to get to something if he's not around. And it's the same thing. If your nephew is someone that's not being watched, keep that in mind. So make sure to keep your fragile, you know, gold plastic, you know, GPS, G1, whatever stuff out of reach. Just do what my dad kind of did. Was he got me cheap Hot Wheels from Value Village, like just huge bag of them. And
from Goodwill, Value Village.
Well, to give an equivalence, because he was a die-cast car collector, and it was kind of like, these are daddy's toys, and then these are your toys. You know what I mean? To kind of separate, you know, to understand what is a person's property, right? And it's kind of the same thing too, where if you have like cheaper, I don't want to say cheaper, but more endurance Transformers that could take a beating, you know, that's something you could give to them and go, these are what you're going to mess with, and then one day you'll be able to mess with the other stuff, but not now. And because, you know, give them that separation. And it's a good learning experience for kids too.
Yeah.
You know, because they learn, like, you know, what is, you know, someone's personal property and stuff. And especially if it's an only child, you know, sometimes only children have that problem where they sometimes don't know personal space and boundaries, because, you know, JawzD's an only child, but he was raised by a good mom, so.
Yeah, I was raised by a lot of good people.
Yeah.
So basically, everyone told me, like, that's not yours.
Yeah.
This is yours. And if I ever kind of stepped out of line, they let me know I'm out of line. You know, so it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. I was a good kid. I would always try to make sure, this is my toys. I'm gonna keep them forever. Keep them good.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm gonna get another one. It wasn't always the case, but I always just like, this is my stuff. I'm taking care of it.
We have a question here by ArcJank. What are your thoughts on a box set or individual releases of every Beast Wars character in their Cybertronian mode? Sounds like the 2006 BotCon box set. Being remolded from the current Micromasters. I wouldn't want it from the current Micromasters, because that would almost kind of limit them. Although it would make that box set more realistic, because we've already seen examples of 10 packs of Micromasters done in retail through, I believe it was a Target exclusive and Toys R Us with us. So it would be more realistic if it was done with Micromasters, but I would prefer it if it was done with deluxes. Like, I would prefer taking, you know, Siege Sideswipe, having that be Cheetor, taking, you know, I'll just try to look over, you know, taking any of the other characters and just turning them into Beast Wars characters. But that's kind of exactly what the 2006 BotCon box set was. It was taking all those Cybertron molds, and I think it was all Cybertron molds. I think one of them was Energon, and just turning them into Beast Wars characters. And I mean, it worked. But the box set thing is becoming less and less of a thing now because without a Toys R Us, there's not a good platform for that. Walmart is very difficult with their shelf space. There's only so much space they're going to allocate to each brand.
And you can't even do that with a an Amazon or anything like that. Because
well, Amazon would be...
Because, I mean, you would want the box set to be shown. You want people to pick up the box set to be like, oh, snap, it's a box set.
Well, when you're doing a big, beautiful display piece like that, that's the whole point, is for the shelf appeal. The only other one I could think of, and they're starting to build a better relationship, is with GameStop, because GameStop is now leaning more towards, you know, they're still going to have video games, but they're leaning more harder on merchandising and action figures. And like when they did Ectotron, GameStop, at least in Canada, was the like exclusive carrier, and EB Games, as it was called in some regions, was the exclusive carrier of Ectotron. And so all those more expensive specialty items and bigger box sets, they find a place at GameStop. So I could see if they do box sets, it would have to be a GameStop thing, or, you know, I don't know. Like the same thing, Best Buy at one point was trying to carry toys. It didn't work out for them, so that's not really a good venue for it. There's different, you know, again, the power vacuum that Toys R Us created is something that's going to have to heal, and not to mention everything that's going on in the world right now. With the big V, that also is going to factor into, is, you know, big expensive product going to be hitting brick and mortar retail anytime soon? Is that in the plans? Obviously, all these companies, they're looking at the long term and going like, hey, what do we do with this? What do we do with that? The stuff like Hasbro Pulse, you know, being an online store, is partially an evolution of what's going on in the world right now, you know. But yeah. That's the long, short answer of it, pretty much. Did they have a series like that years ago? Sorry, one sec. Someone wants to know, JawzD, what's your opinion of the Back to the Future Transformers Gigawatt?
Oh, I think it's pretty cool. I know I was talking with a few other people from our little circle that we have.
From the non-Transformers world.
Yeah, no, not non-Transformers, but Transformers world, and we're trying to figure out what it was, because this is before the images dropped, and we're just trying. Okay, so and then we're trying to figure out, okay, what's the name going to be? And some people are saying Back in Time or Out of Time, maybe Power of Love. Like we're just like throwing out names, and they're like Gigawatt was the actual name, and we got to see everything when it came out. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm pretty sure that's Sideswipe.
100%. It's a heavy retool of Sideswipe.
Yeah,
it's a heavy retool of Sideswipe. Yeah, which again, credit to the retooling amazingness of modern Hasbro.
And I thought it was pretty cool. And I feel really bad that nobody's really able to get it, and it got, you know, the market where, the market where it sits right now, of, you know, going on eBay and trying to get it for over a ridiculous amount of price. So I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know if you talked about if they're gonna make more or what. Because I remember the way the videos came out for Slag was, oh hey, it's Gigawatt. Then the next video was, oh my god, scalping.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
like the immediate video later was like, they're all sold out, it's done.
It's sold out. It sold out in 3 minutes, and right away there was like 20 listings on eBay for them for $700. And considering it was $35, that's like unbelievable. So but pretty much Hasbro said like, yeah, we're gonna put out more. And then Japan came forward and said, oh, we're gonna do our own run of them also. So there's gonna be multiple venues. Also, they said like Amazon.com and .ca is gonna have their own run of them. So we're gonna be fine.
Were they surprised that so much people just jumped out? Like,
I think they didn't, and I even said it. I had the discussion on the Discord. I said people don't realize, because I said how, you know, the Ecto one, it didn't do gangbusters. It did okay.
Yeah.
But it didn't do like crazy gangbusters. And I said to people, I'm like, watch this. This one is going to do crazy, because people just don't understand just how iconic the DeLorean is to the Ecto one. Like, yes, Ghostbusters is a great movie. Don't get me wrong. I like the Ecto one design. It's cool. But the DeLorean hits so many places for so many different walks of life for people
Mm-hmm.
that product is going to just go, it's going to be so popular. That's going to be on non-Transformer websites for news. Like, that's going to be something that everyone's going to talk about it and want it. Not to mention, it's going to be slightly cheaper than the Ecto one because it's a small. The Ecto one was based off of the Onslaught mold, which was a Voyager, so it was going to be a little more expensive. This one, because it was based off a Deluxe mold, so it'll be cheaper. So on top of that, easier price of entry for people who are, you know, like someone who's not a Transformer fan, who's on the fence, and then they go, oh, it's only $35. Okay, you know, I spend more than that on a night out eating. You know, so for them, it's they go, okay, cool, I'm gonna do this.
Down.
And
I got this.
and the thing is, the people who scalped it, like when I did the scalping segment that I talked about, you could check it on the archive of the Transformer Slag podcast on YouTube.
Yeah.
The one thing that I pointed out was everyone who scalped them, I looked at what else they were as sellers, and one guy was like a Funko Pop scalper, one guy was a convention exclusive scalper, this clearly even got the attention of people that see toys and go, this is going to be money. And they weren't wrong.
Yeah, something to flip.
They weren't wrong, because when you have something that has that multiple appeal, you know that there's money to be made there. You know.
Yeah.
And I was angry about it, but it didn't surprise me. I just was surprised how quickly it sold out. I knew that it was going to be way more popular than the Ecto one. I knew that for a fact. And I remember talking with, I think it was Zero, who was one of the guys on the Discord, and he was like a Ghostbusters fan. He's like, no, the Ecto one is just as iconic. I'm like, no, bro, you have no idea. You know,
I mean, the Ecto one is iconic, but I don't think you could have gone out and bought it. I mean, in what I mean by that is, like, you can't go out and buy that model. Like, I mean, you could buy that model of, it's an old
it could be done.
ambulance, isn't it?
It could be done.
It's an old ambulance, but then you have to like modify it to make it look like the Ecto one. Or the DeLorean, you could just go out and buy the DeLorean. And I think that company's still technically around. In my opinion,
both of them are difficult cars to get anyways. Like a DeLorean, even that's a difficult one to get today. But I think to me, it's more just, the Ecto one is a cool vehicle. The DeLorean is a cool car. And there's a difference in that statement. People like cool cars. You know what I mean? Like why do people like Generation 1 Transformers? Because they're cool cars. You know, and that makes a big difference from, you know, Rat Trap, that's a Transmetal, that's a cool vehicle. You know, I don't know how to put it. Like, it's
with a rat head. He looks like the painting that you would put on the side of a hot rod.
Like, you would be proud to drive around in a DeLorean, like a raw DeLorean, not with all the dock stuff on it. You wouldn't be driving around the Ecto one without its bells and whistles. You know what I mean?
With the Mr. Fusion on the back.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's so, to me, the DeLorean just it interested so many different groups of people, and I knew it was going to be a hit. I just didn't realize how crazy it was going to be a hit. But we're going to get opportunities. We will, like, you know, Hasbro came forward and said, look, Amazon.com, Amazon.uk, Amazon.ca. Japan is going to do their thing too. I think Australia recently announced they're going to do something also. So I think they realized, oh, we have money here, you know, and there's more to be done. Where's next here? I may have missed this in any details on Gigawatt's release in Canada. To assume that it's going to be EV games like extra. Like I said, Star Max, they're going to be on Amazon.ca. That'll probably be your best bet. And if it's Amazon.ca, what's good with that is it's more open-ended in terms of how many will be available. Because Amazon, they have that pull where they could say to Hasbro, we got 10,000 orders, we need 10,000 units. Where and the only reason why I know that's because I see that with their amiibos, where that's the same thing when those go live on pre-order and they just go crazy. So I'm pretty sure you'll get an opportunity. You just got to make sure to be ready to pre-order. Where are we at here? So much stuff flying by the screen.
Yep.
Ultra Primal confirmed, yes, Monty was the guy who created Ruby and Dead Fantasy. There you go.
And sadly passed away.
Yeah, he passed away, yeah. He was a friend of Ego Raptors, I think. They were close friends. Optimus watched this series on Friday. You could PM him and ask him, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone you did. Why'd you ask? Why would you type it here then? Everyone's going to see that. Um,
Why would you say it?
yeah, everyone's going to see it. The chat doesn't delete after we're done the stream. It stays forever.
Unless you delete it. Unless the person deletes it.
Yeah, I think they could delete it. So I don't think... Can I remove it? Oh, I can remove it. There we go. There he goes. Anyways, we'll just ignore what we said. I don't think it'll get anyone in trouble, but anyways, I'll just delete that just for the... I don't want to get Paul in trouble. Where are we at here? 50.
I remember that was the funny thing about Gigawatt. People were like messaging me on Facebook, people that that I wouldn't consider being toy fans or Transformer fans, are like, "Oh, did you know about this?" And it's like, yes, I did.
Oh yeah, that was the 2007 movie. Everyone coming up to me, did you hear they're going to be making a live action movie? Yes, I know. Yes. We have a question here. Do you think the 1984 and 1995 figures were better than the 1986 and afterwards figure? Don't let Hot Rod be any bias. I feel from an engineering standpoint, the 1986 and onward figures are better in terms of durability. Just take it from someone who buys and sells in the secondary market. Like those Dieclon 84, 85s, like I love them. I actually like their designs better because they're based off of real cars and stuff. But their biggest negative is how fragile they are. They were not toys meant to be played with. Like the old saying I used to always say for years is, Jazz, Prowl, Sideswipe, one wrong twist and you get a mysterious third mode, the convertible, And it's,
I wonder if that's where Jazz's death comes from in the anime, in the Bay movie.
Do you know how many Jazzes I've found in the secondary market that his windshield is busted from like that back neck piece of his? Like that.
Yeah.
So many windshields busted. Same thing with Prowl and Blue Streak. Like those rear windows that make like their front shins always busted off. Like the 84, 85 guys. Gorgeous designs, beautiful. I like them more, but they're so much more fragile. Where at least the one good thing is you could take like 1987 Chrome Dome and no joke, like whip him at a wall, like full force, and you're gonna dent the wall. The figure will be fine. Same thing like Minerva, super rare. Whip her at a wall, she'll be fine. I remember the headmaster accessory might fall off, but
I remember when I was a kid and I used to go to the daycare at school, they actually had a Galvatron and a Skylynx, but they didn't have the Lynx part of the Skylynx, so they only had the top shuttle part. And for the most part, all of it was there. There was some missing pieces, and for the Galvatron, obviously the cannon wasn't there.
Yeah,
maybe an arm wasn't there, but like for the most part, I knew I was like, this looks like, I think this might be the Galvatron. Holy crap,
Accessories will get lost, but those 86 and onward figures, and Toy Box was the one that designed Skylynx, which was a Korean company. They're solid toys. Those things, they don't get, they rarely break or get busted. And Skylynx, the only thing that breaks on him is the Lynx part had that walking gimmick. So obviously someone could bust, the little pegs that move the legs and stuff if you force them. But otherwise, like, they're a lot stronger, those toys. I always felt in terms of like, if I had to like lean on one series that I appreciate everything that it's done, it always kind of falls on late G2, early Beast Wars, because it introduced the ball joint and the self-contained weapons, which to me was such a turning point for the brand in terms of engineering and articulation and posability, and not losing accessories, because even a character like Hooligan could hold all his missiles. You know what I mean?
Favorite.
Yeah, but that's why, like, it starts with like the cyber jets and the laser cycles, where it's like, hey, the weapon could be stored on alt mode and robot mode. You don't lose it. They have ball joints, so you have all this articulation. It started with late G2, and then Beast Wars kind of like perfected it, and then off to the races from that point. Where after Beast Wars came out, the thing that every fan was saying was, we want modern G1 characters with Beast Wars articulation. And well, we would get that with classics years later, but exactly 10 years later. But the point is that I love 1984 and 85, but I understand what it was. Those were late 70s toys that were brought 5-10 years later to the modern era of 1984 and 1985. with kids who just destroy toys, so that's why
No, I think kids always used to destroy toys, but I mean, like, you're going from what kids used to have, which were wooden toys, were just a brick with
yeah,
maybe wheels that are shaped in a certain way, to tin toys, and then to plastic and die
plastic with
cast.
die cast, which is so
Yeah.
fragile. And not to mention, like, and then the era that came afterwards, because you look at, like, at the time Transformers shared it with GI Joe. How many broken rubber band torsos from that?
Yeah,
how
and it
many
was and again, like, I feel like the broken rubber bands wasn't always
the
the
O-rings
kids
people call.
the O-rings. It wasn't always kids destroying it. The O-rings just get old and just
That's true
snap on
too.
you.
That is true too. They do dry out. I had GI Joe figures that I had in storage, and then I came back to them years later, and yeah, Cobra Commanders in two pieces, just because it degrades. The cool thing about it is you could go to any hardware store and buy those O-rings, so
Yeah.
that's pretty cool about it. Do you think there's a slim chance we would get a Hot House or Airwave? So repaints, I think we will. I think they'll probably be Hasbro Select items. Those are the Micromaster bases. That they're probably going to be repaint retools. We recently saw that grease pit, and it showed us how Hasbro is able to take one design and turn it into another through amazing retooling and adding accessories or stickers. So yeah, I could see it happening, but it'll be a Hasbro Select exclusive, in my opinion. Transformer Slag, will Studio Series evolve like the Transformable line, like Marvel Legends and Black Series, to be more Black Series for a more than theatrical movies? Oh, well, that would kind of defeat the purpose of the title Studio Series. I think that Studio Series is aimed more at movie stuff, and it'll stay like that. We're just lucky that the '86 movie featured a lot of Generation One characters, so that's why Jazz is there. Jazz was technically in like 3 scenes in the '86 movie, but he still was in the '86 movie, and he's going to
And
be
lived.
and lived and lived,
And lived.
which is a big plus for him, because not a lot of people lived. If you were
Nope.
in
Some people
that
got shot in the arm and they died.
Oh,
you know?
you were in the '84 toy line. My condolences.
Yeah.
Jazz and Cliff Jumper, the two Porsches, they both survived. It's kind of funny because they were both on the same moon base together. The Porsche base, I guess we'll call it. Do you think we will get that weird squid tank thing? You're referring to Tacotron, Taco Tank, I think you're talking about, from Beast Wars. So what he's referring to, Nick, is Beast Wars 2nd had a base playset called the Taco Tank, or Taco Tank. Taco in Japanese means squid,
Oh,
and that's why I'm saying it weird, because I'm trying to say it how they would say taco. Like, you ever went for what's it called? Taco Magi. It's like the shrimp balls there. You ever had that?
Oh, okay.
Taco Magi. So the Taco Tank was this squid playset that opened up. It had a motorcycle. It had a repaint of Clawjaw, which was the squid transformer from Beast Wars. I could see them. I don't know if they would bring that over anytime soon. I would see them modernizing it, but I wouldn't see them really be bringing over like a reissue anytime soon. It would be cool because, again, he's one of those really expensive play sets that I think goes for like $150 now today because he's so weird. But I could see them more remaking it than anything. But again, the sad thing is I go back to what I was saying before. 4 slots for deluxes, 12 characters max. Who are you going to pick with a Beast Wars line? How many Voyagers? 2 Voyagers per wave, sometimes 3. 3 waves, maybe 3.5. That's 6 characters, maybe 7. So it's like, who are you going to pick that are Voyagers? Leader classes, usually 1 or 2. Who are you going to pick? So it's very complicated with that. You have to really you have to make like a chart and decide who lives and who dies, in terms of like who you're going to put in for Beast Wars. Assuming that they just keep it standalone in that one line. If they continue it forward after the trilogy ends and they do more Beast Wars, then yeah, sure. I think personally, and I said this before, we're gonna hit a Beast era. We're gonna have the live action movie. We're gonna have throwback stuff. They're gonna probably do a separate line that throws back to old school Beast Wars. We're gonna have the Studio Series Beast Wars stuff. We're gonna have the Beast Wars Generation stuff through this War for Cybertron. I think we're going to have Beast Wars Masterpieces being more focused on because of the movies, both Masterpiece movie and traditional Beast Wars, based off of the old style. I think that we're gonna enter a beast era in the same way that like you have Star Wars, and whenever there's a new era of characters, that new era of characters go across all that product. So I think that'll happen. My buddy surprised me with a Beast Wars Prowl for my birthday, which is today. Happy birthday, Horned Owl, by the way.
Oh, that's cool.
I've been meaning to get him for a while now. Yeah, the I think it was called Prowl 2 was his name, which was a Horned Owl, actually.
Yeah.
And he came in a variant. He came in white and black. There was 2 versions of it. And that was a pretty interesting Transmetal toy. That was the Transmetal 2s. Aaron Archer worked on that one, I believe, actually. He worked on quite a few of those that he was brought in for the TM2s. Where are we at here? So happy birthday again. GameStop barely gets any more for Cybertron stuff. When it comes to normal retail stuff, GameStop kind of like, I feel like they get one case and they just kind of put it in the store, but they do try to get the more out of the like the left field kind of stuff, like big role play accessories, big play sets. Like, Omega Supreme was in GameStop, and before that, Triptychon. So it doesn't surprise me if they'll get it. Why do some Transformer characters in Japan have different names, like Optimus and Convoy? Pronunciation, for one. Number one, Japan, they don't have V's, they have B's. Like, it's actually not Convoy, it's Convoy. That's how they say it. It's not Vegeta, it's Vegeta for Dragon Ball. So certain characters, they want to go with a name that works more better in their market, or they just want to go for something more simple. Like Bumblebee was called Bumble. Cliffjumper was called Cliff. Wheeljack was called Jack. Optimus Prime was called Convoy. Simple, short names that just are more catchy and memorable. You have to understand too, there's no trademarking over there, so they could call it whatever they want. It's a very different system over there. But after 2007, when the movies became an international success, they went back to the American names. Now it's Optimus Prime. They actually call him that. They don't call him Convoy anymore, unless for specific things, like if they're referring to old stuff. Do you think they would do a crossover with Jaws, since we already have Shark Transformers? Well, what studio is Jaws? Actually, now that I think about it, that's Spielberg, isn't it?
Universal?
Is it?
I want to say Universal.
Because like we know that after the Gigawatt, we're going to be getting a Top Gun crossover Transformer called Maverick, and we've seen some leaked images of just the packaging for it. And
yeah, Universal Pictures.
So
that's the product.
So that might be a little more difficult, because I know, like, the reason why I brought up the Top Gun one is because that's also Paramount. Yeah. So it's something where if Hasbro and their relationship with Paramount wasn't as strong, then they could turn to Universal and go, hey, let's do a Jaws Transformer. But the thing is with a Jaws Transformer is it's not as... Like, when you see a great white shark, you don't go, it's Jaws. You know what I mean? Like where you can look at the Ectotron, or... I mean, the belief is... This is what I believe it's going to be. Last year was the Ectotron. It was the 35th anniversary of Ghostbusters. This year is the 35th anniversary of Back to the Future. So we're getting that 35th anniversary product. Next year is the 35th anniversary of Top Gun. We're going to have the Top Gun movie, which is also the 35th anniversary, and we're getting that figure. Yeah. And then what's interesting is the year after that is going to be the 40th anniversary of Knight Rider. So I think that, mark my words, I'm calling it now, Kit is going to get a Transformer. And if there's one character that's almost made for Transformers, it's Kit. It's an AI car. It's an iconic car. Again, that Firebird, super iconic.
Do you think they're going to go all the way through with that? If they do Knight Rider, do you think they're going to go all the way through and do, what's the name of the evil Kit?
Yeah, Car. With Peter Cullen.
Do Car, and then,
Well, the voice actor for Mr. McFeely, I believe he passed away, correct? Who was Kit?
Who was Kit?
Yeah, he passed away, so we wouldn't be able to record new voice tracks for
McFeely.
McFeely, excuse me, did I say McFeely?
Yeah.
No, that's from
you said Feely.
That's from what do you
Boy
call
Meets
it?
World.
No, but McFeely's from Mr. Rogers. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
That was the.
I thought you were talking about an old rocker.
Yeah, but so the point is that I could see them doing Kit as the next one because it seems like they always want to do it on an anniversary because they always put that on the box. They always go 35th anniversary or whatever. So I could totally see Kit happening. Like I would almost like if we were doing a pool and there was betting,
Mm-hmm.
I'd put Kit down like for sure because it works so well. It's one of those iconic 80s properties that has an AI car that would look really cool if it transformed and knowing the timing around that time we're going to get a Trax, Generations figure or whatever, and then they'll crazy retool it into Kit. It'll have the light up chest, which will be the light up eye on the front of the car on the dash. Like they'll do something crazy awesome. It'll be really cool and David Hasselhoff will sign 1,000 copies at San Diego Comic-Con or something. It'll be great. I personally feel that that's the direction where, again, Jaws, I get that it's another iconic, late 70s property in this case.
I think the only tricky part is that if they did Jaws, like let's say they got Jaws, blah blah, are they making like a Sharktacon or are they making are they doing Cyber Shark? Or they're gonna give us a boat that can transform.
Like is it a boat that's like half eaten? Is his weapon like that canister that was in his mouth that got shot when it exploded? Like it's just to me it's like you want that alt mode, which is part of the selling point. When you see the DeLorean, it's the DeLorean. When you see the Ecto-1, it's the Ecto-1. When you see Knight Rider, it's Knight Rider. When you see Jaws. Is it Jaws or is it just yet another great white that might have like one or two scars on his body, depending on which Jaws movie you're watching? Which if anyone saw past Jaws 2, anyways, which weren't Spielberg. So the only reason I know that is my uncle watched them years ago, so I know there's a difference. But yeah, that one, it's like you'd want to go with something that's more like people would. I've seen some other examples. Some were saying with the A-Team van. Like that's or the Mystery Machine, or like to me there's a lot of other really iconic 80s stuff. Some people even said
if they did the Mystery Machine, I could see them retooling the newer Ironhide and Ratchet that they did not too long ago.
Or what they'll do is they'll just make a new Ironhide or Ratchet when they get around to it, and then what a surprise it'll be that. Where are we at here? Where are we at? We're up to 80 people live watching right now. We actually broke a record in current 100% live right now, so that's pretty awesome. Let's see. Do we think that Titan class will be Monstructor? I could see it one day, but maybe not Titan class. I could see it being just a basic combiner team, but again, that's kind of hard to say. Do you think Studio Series will ever have the Ice Cream Twins? I think it's going to happen. I think that Hasbro is going to slowly finish up the last of. I did a segment about this. I talked about what's left for Studio Series for the movie stuff before we get into new movies, and there's still a good, I'd have to say, baker's dozen of characters left. Some of them are obscure, some of them are not obscure. But
did they do Sideways yet? The Audi?
No, they didn't. Exactly. That would
have been a good one to do.
Well, that's why there's still a few left for them to do. But it's something where like I feel that again they're pacing themselves. There's only so many slots. Same thing with Studio Series that they could do. Armada Demolishor was one of my favorite characters. Would you like to see him get revisited? Yes, I would. I love Armada Demolishor. He was a really unique design. He was one of those early Armada toys that really was part of that early engineering that wasn't used in later Armada. And, fun fact, one of the best tabletop Transformer games ever made is the Armada board game. Shout out to Misum. He introduced me to it. I became so obsessed with that board game, I bought 2 of them. Just so I could have one that I could bring around in case of pieces get lost or whatever. And Armada Demolishor is super OP in it. Like he's, if you know how, because it's a card game like Magic the Gathering mixed with tabletop strategy. It's
Hmm.
so good. Oh, like people don't realize, and it was Misa J Alvatron in the TFcon staff and everything that introduced me to it, and it was so good, so good. So shout out to him. Me, Goober, him. We used to play it together. It was, and Armada Demolishor, again, super OP. So check out that board game. You can get it for like $10 now, and it's so good. Such a good board game, that Armada board game. On the topic of Beast Wars, what are your thoughts on mutant heads or mutant masks? Uh, I thought they were kind of cool. I used to think back in the day, I remember back in the day with the mutant heads, I used to think that the mutant heads existed as a way to have an excuse for repaints, like
Mm.
how Buzzsaw could have the normal head and Waspinator could have the mutant head. How
Mm.
Tigatron on his packaging, if you actually Google
Oh yeah,
Tigatron box art 1996, he's depicted with the mutant head, which is
yeah.
like some kind of like
A bug head. It's
it's
a
like a
weird bug
bug head
head.
Greedo kind of, like, I don't know how to describe it. Like I always thought back in the day, and this is like 96, 97. Oh, the mutant head is so that you could have two toys out of it.
Mm.
You could have, like, the one character with the paint scheme will have that head, and that way you don't have to retool, which
Yeah.
retooling wasn't really even a thing back then. It started to happen only afterwards with like K9 and a few other characters in Beast Wars. But that's what I originally thought mutant heads were for. But
I I
it
I thought
act
the mutant heads were very weird. Like
oh
I
yeah.
didn't under I like getting the toys for the first time as a kid and trying to understand why they were there.
Well,
I didn't understand the gimmick at the time,
the
but I thought it
belief
was pretty cool that you could flip around the head and get something else out of it if you
it was
really really
another
wanted to.
play pattern. The belief was because they've never done Transformers that were completely organic. And when you look
Right.
at characters like Cheetor and Tigatron, where you got the mutant head, but then you
Hmm.
look at his gut gun and it has like the intestines on it and everything,
Yeah.
like they were really going for this, like, Transformers are really mutating into this next, and that's why they were called mutant heads. That was like the it was never shown on any of the packaging. It was called a mutant head. It
Hmm.
was a term used within the company for discussing those and designing those. Obviously, mutant heads afterwards were phased out
Yeah.
with series 3 of the toys, which is like, I guess we'll call it Air Razor and Inferno, like those waves. And then they got
Hmm.
rid of the mutant heads because then the show came out and mutant heads weren't a thing. But what's an interesting fact, if you have the extras on the DVDs of Beast Wars, the early models of the characters in the shows all had mutant heads. They actually worked in the mutant heads on Dinobot and a lot of the other characters, thinking they were going to use them. And in the end, they
Hmm.
obviously didn't get used. The last two
What?
toys that used the mutant heads were when they were doing Ultra Optimus Primal and Ultra Megatron. Those were the last mutant heads, which had like the bat face and the other
Yeah.
bat face. Like,
I was gonna bring that up because I thought it was pretty cool that the fins on the side of Optimus Primal came down on his behind his the back of his neck,
yeah,
and then you put the moon head up, and then those would be the fangs, the under fangs for the bat.
yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
It was, again, it was an interesting idea, but at the same time, it's like it was something that was created. Like Beast Wars, when the toy line first came out, Hasbro was first going like, okay, we're not doing a show. This is, excuse me, Kenner. We're not doing a show. We're gonna do a comic book, and that first two-pack comic book that was included with the Bat Primal and Croc Megatron was done by Dark Horse Comics. They weren't credited, but it was Dark Horse Comics that worked on it. And the plan was that Dark Horse was going to continue probably doing comics based on it. And they probably would have worked in the Mutant Head gimmick at some point, which oddly enough was only available in the deluxe price point and above. It wasn't available in the basics. So there probably would have been some explanation there too. Why does Optimus Primal and Megatron not have mutant heads, but Cheetor and Dinobot, and this Waspinator character, why do they have mutant heads? So there probably would have been some explanation, but in a micro continuity of Beast Wars where Bat Primal is a thing, and the McDonald's toys, let's say,
Yeah.
we would know what a mutant head is. Maybe I'll write that comic one day. Maybe I'll talk to Josh Perez. We'll write something. But yeah. So where are we at here? I saw pics, probably fake, of a Transformers Party Wagon Transformer crossover. It's not fake images; they're actually customs by a group of individuals. It's just that the news saw them and ran with it, and they thought it was It was just customs by fans. Protoman, love your podcast. Been dying to ask, do you think there's even a prayer of a chance of Hasbro doing an Omega Supreme and Jetfire for Walmart for the Hasbro Netflix series, or it's just too much money? The problem with both of those is Jetfire and Omega Supreme are really big toys. And again, what we said before, it's not too much money. Money isn't the issue. It's the shelving space. Walmart just isn't equipped for big product like that. If things change in the future and they lean more towards that kind of stuff, I could see it. But right now, like, they just don't have the shelving space for it. And that always makes me worry about the future of the Titan class to begin with, because Omega Supreme was conceived when Toys R Us still was a thing. Obviously, it didn't get released when Toys R Us was a thing, but it was conceived then. It does show up in some areas, but it's not something that Walmart wants to lean on, where they're going to buy multiple cases of Omega Supreme, especially considering, like you mentioned, it's a Netflix thing. If it was the Netflix one, there were going to be Walmart exclusives. So you're better off just getting an Omega Supreme and Jetfire in the secondary market than hoping for a repaint or something with the Netflix sticker on it. But yeah, that's my take on it, more or less. Again, Walmart's very limited with their space. Who do you think the new Cyberverse Build-A-Figure will be? I hope for... Well, we're not going to get another Cyberverse Build-A-Figure, although I do agree with what you said. I would want it to be Windblade, only because there actually was a factual story involved with that, where, again, spoiler for people, at one point Windblade gets broken up into separate pieces, and they had to collect Windblade parts. So I think she would have made the best Build-A-Figure, because it would make sense with it would make sense with the story. That's why. Someone said, how about a Transformers X Herbie the Love Bug? I think that would be amazing. I loved Herbie the Love Bug as a kid. That first movie is a classic, and I rewatched it 2 years ago. It was on TV, and I rewatched it now as a mechanic. And I
Which version?
The first one, the very first one.
Okay.
And I appreciate it more because there was so much mechanic lingo involved in it. And
was it accurate at least?
Yeah, well, except for the end of the movie where Herbie gets cut in half and they still win the race, but that's a whole other story. But the rest of the movie, it's a very good movie that holds up, and it was kind of ahead of its time because it was in the 60s, I believe, that movie. And there's like a Japanese investor who wants to like invest in Herbie's race team, and this is like before like the Datsun really took off, so like the Japanese being involved in motorsports in America, like it's very interesting movie. I would love it, and I'm pretty sure Hasbro would love it too, because you could have like a Bumblebee kind of crossover thing going on there with two Volkswagens.
And I think it's a reasonable reach, because yeah, like you said before, the Volkswagen, and I'm pretty sure Herbie the Love Bug is a Disney movie, right? So yes. Hasbro is already doing all of the Disney stuff.
They do a lot of business with Disney, so I'm pretty sure.
Oh my goodness. Was it Star Wars, Marvel,
yeah.
Disney princesses,
all the Disney princess stuff? So it would just be
it's
a
not
given.
A hard ask.
It would be a given, and for Disney, it would revitalize that brand that really kind of went dormant after the Lindsay Lohan movie, which I didn't see it, but I could only imagine. Do you think Marvel and Star Wars Transformer lines should be brought back? Done better, obviously, by Common Pikachu. They did, not too long ago, they did a Star Wars Millennium Falcon Transformer. They did a remake of it, which was way better than the original American one, which was a GPS mess. I could see them doing it again. You know what's funny? Like, they stopped doing the Marvel Transformers crossover line, and then when I think it was the second Iron Man movie came out, they did like a Iron Man only, and it wasn't really advertised as Transformers. It was like Iron Man toys that transformed into robots. And then they did the same thing when the Spider-Man movie, the Amazing Spider-Man, the second one with Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
They took the engineering of the flip changer jump starters from 1985, and they made Lizard and Spider-Man transforming robot flip changers. And again, because it's all Marvel, it's all Hasbro, and so I feel like we still once in a while we get these weird crossover not Transformer stuff that's done by Hasbro. Like if you were a Marvel Transformer crossover collector, that stuff would be part of your collection because it's not officially Transformers, but it's done by like the same engineers pretty much. I wouldn't be surprised. I would like to see more. They were going to do a really good Venom. It never happened. They were going to do a Punisher, which I think only a small amount of copies of that got out. Same thing, the Thor, I think only got a regional release. They were getting better at it. Obviously, it wasn't that great back then, but they were getting better. I'd like to see it, but there's so much right now coming out that would you want it to come out now and eat up your wallet space? Eric here obviously saw my Twitter. Do you think Orkanaut or Arachnid as Titan class bases for Kingdom? I talked about that on my Twitter. Those are the two Microverse play sets. I would love it if those guys had any kind. And the Arachnid trademark is still with Hasbro, so they could do something. I would love it if they did, for sure, 100%. Those are two obscure play sets. I love play set Transformers, so anytime it's Transformer play sets, they'll always get an okay for me. Isn't Walmart's inventory consignment based since Omega and Jetfire are being both sold out? See, that I don't know. You'd have to talk to Walmart shelf stalkers and stuff. We're almost at 9 o'clock, guys, so we're going to take a few more questions, and then we're going to call it quits for the night. We're already been going for 3 hours. 3 hours just fly, I swear. Man, oh man. Someone says here, Clobber would make a good build a figure. Ultra Clobber would have been good too. If the upcoming RED line is going well, seeing as we're getting a Prime RC in the line, what TF series would you like to see done for those? Would you like to see Unicron Trilogy or animated? I think that in a line that doesn't have to be stuck to transformations, do some characters where their transformations kind of hurt the robot mode. So like I've always felt like, and obviously I'm not using this as an example of one of my choices, but like Pterosaur was always one of those designs that I'm always like, man, those wings got to really fold up to really match how he looked on the show, because his actual toy couldn't really pull that off, especially with that price point. And it could be done in a masterpiece scale, but so it's something where I don't really have an answer per se, but definitely any character that has a design that would have been kind of impossible if you integrate a transformation, like Savage Noble, you know, like Savage Noble, how do you get that giant dragon with the blue colors, the red colors, and then he transforms and now primary blue with no wings? It's impossible. You'd have to do parts forming. You got to get rid of the wings. So like, but a Savage Noble would be cool. You know, like even though Beast Machines isn't exactly the best Transformer series and Savage Noble isn't like a super iconic character, but something like that. Wouldn't you like Botanica? You know, wouldn't you like, or even characters that don't transform, like an Alpha Trion or a Transmutate? You know, there's some really interesting stuff that could be put there. Obviously, they're going to go with the iconic stuff first because they want stuff to sell. But you could do like a wave of 5 iconic guys, 1 weird guy. You know, 1 weird outlier. I think that they're probably going to test the water with that, where you have G1 Optimus. Right now, the wave is G1 Optimus Prime, good seller. G1 Megatron, good seller. G1 Soundwave, good seller. And then, Cheetor. That's probably going to sell well with the 90s kids. Again, that's kind of coming up right now. We're going to enter a Beast era. Then we got not a Robots in Disguise, a Transformers Prime RC is going to be part of that. That's a good one too, because it's a design that really her toys kind of were hindered by some of her kibble. It'll work out. I think it'll work out in the end. We can only take a few more questions, guys. Do you think Hasbro would do another accessory set? I think they will. I think it sold very well, their accessory set. What would they do? I don't know, though. I would like to obviously see, like, that last accessory set was all these nods to 1984 and 1985 stuff. Continue that trend. Do a lot of really weird small accessories and Energon goodies and stuff like that. Should we get a release of TF animated McDonald's toys and finally get the Blitzwing Western Regional? That would be McDonald's tooling. That's completely out of Hasbro's because what Nick is referring to is we got the animated McDonald's toys, but in the UK they got an exclusive release, which was a Blitzwing. Let me just reach for it one moment. I'll just show it quickly. It was this one here. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe a third-party group of guys could bootleg it, because it's I don't see McDonald's doing reissues anytime soon. They just did their, what was it, their 35th or 40th anniversary of the Happy Meals, and that sold out ridiculously quickly. So
wow.
Yeah, that was, you couldn't get those. Those were crazy. Anyways, we'll do one more question, and the last question is going to be Waluigi, and he's asking, do you think that one of the weirder characters in Kingdom could be Striker? I would love to see Striker. I would love to I think Obsidian needs a good modern toy too. You know, like I would love to see Striker. I would love to see Obsidian. Some of those Viacon designs, I love them. But I think, again, when you have those limited slots of who you could use, Hasbro's going to start first with those iconic Beast Wars characters, because you want to get that market of like, oh, I remember Beast Wars as a kid. I loved that show. Yeah, and then you go with the characters people remember. Again, no surprise who has been announced. Rat Trap, Cheetor, Optimus Primal, Megatron, Dinobot. You know, right away going to all you're missing is like Rhinox. All you're missing is, you know, like maybe we'll lean into Pterosaur and Scorponok a little bit. And then later on, Tigatron. Railracer was announced because they want to obviously have a female character on the line too. So really good stuff. But as it stands right now, like I think they're going to go with those more iconic Season 1 characters, maybe lean into Season 2 a little bit. But later on, we'll see maybe Transmetals, maybe we'll see Beast Machines characters. But that's it for now. Anyways, guys, we're going to call it quits. We had a very good turnout today. Thanks again for coming by. If you're interested in being part of our crew, there's a join button at the bottom. You could join the Transformers membership thing. We have a few guys that were in the chat today, like Steven, who are part of our membership. We also have our Patreon for Patreon listener questions, where you can get all kinds of cool stuff. Join the Discord, come hang out with us and everything. That's in the description of not this video, but all the other videos. I'll obviously put it in this video afterwards and post in the description. But thanks for coming, guys. Thanks,
everyone.
Thanks, JawzD, for coming again.
Anytime.
You know? He's like Bigfoot now. It's like you see him, it's like, and then he's gone, you know? Or Pokeroo, you know? Yeah. When's the next podcast? Well, I'm going to keep doing segments, guys. They're going to probably be more podcast segments tomorrow and everything. When is the next stream? I don't know. We'll try maybe this Saturday. It really has to do with our personal lives and schedules. But, you know, again, follow Twitter. Follow the Twitter. That's usually the best way to keep track of what's happening. And Bigfoot confirmed. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. It's been great. We'll see everyone next time.
Take care.